The massive crystal chamber of the Galactic Dominion Council gleamed under artificial stars. Emperor Thaxmore sat on his throne of black metal, his yellow eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded him. His reptilian skin reflected the blue light as he studied the latest reports from the Outer Rim territories. For 3,000 years, the Vexari Empire had ruled over 847 star systems. Every species that had ever challenged their power now served as slaves or had been completely destroyed. The Emperor took pride in this fact. Order was everything. Control was absolute. My lord, General Vextar approached the throne with careful steps. His clawed feet clicked against the polished floor. Our scouts have discovered something interesting in Sector 7 Alpha. Emperor Thaxmore did not look away from his displays. Another primitive world begging for mercy? Not exactly, sir. This one is different. The general activated a new hologram. A small blue planet appeared, spinning slowly in the air between them. They call their world Earth. The species calls themselves humans. The Emperor finally turned his attention to the display. He examined the planet with mild curiosity. What makes them different from the others? They have achieved basic spaceflight, my lord. Crude but functional. They have also developed nuclear weapons and have begun exploring their local star system. General Vextar paused. They appear to be aggressive. Emperor Thaxmore laughed. The sound echoed through the crystal chamber like breaking glass. Aggressive? How amusing. Show me their military capabilities. The hologram changed to show Earth space stations and small fleet of exploration vessels. The ships looked tiny compared to even the smallest Vaxari scout craft. Their weapons were primitive projectile launchers and early energy beams. This is what concerns you? The Emperor waved a dismissive claw. These insects barely deserve our attention. Sir, our intelligence suggests they have been preparing for contact with alien species. They seem to expect conflict rather than submission. Of course they do. Emperor Thaxmore stood from his throne. His massive form towered over the general. All primitive species believe they can resist until they see true power. It is always the same story. Meanwhile, millions of light years away, Captain Lee Taman sat in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha. The orbital platform orbited high above Earth, its sensors constantly watching the deep space approaches to the solar system. Taman had served in Earth's military for 15 years, working his way up from a simple fighter pilot to commanding one of humanity's most important defensive positions. The morning shift had been quiet. Too quiet. Taman felt uneasy but could not explain why. His instincts had kept him alive through 3 border conflicts and countless dangerous missions. When something felt wrong, he listened to that feeling. Sir, Communications Officer Kim Dayun called from her station. We're receiving an unusual signal from deep space. The pattern doesn't match any known Earth technology. Taman moved to her station quickly. Can you clean up the signal? Working on it now, sir. Dayun's fingers moved across her control panel. It's definitely artificial, very sophisticated. And sir, it's directed specifically at Earth. A chill ran down Taman's spine. Put it through the translators and route it to Admiral Park's office immediately. Admiral Park Ji-hyun was in her office reviewing patrol reports when the priority message arrived. She had dedicated her life to protecting Earth from threats both known and unknown. At 52, she was the youngest admiral in Earth Defense Force history and had earned her position through brilliant tactical thinking and absolute dedication to her duty. The message began to play, and Park's blood turned cold. The voice was clearly non-human, speaking in perfect English but with an accent that sounded like grinding stone. Attention, primitive inhabitants of the third planet. I am General Vextar of the Galactic Dominion Council, speaking on behalf of Emperor Thaxmore, ruler of 847 worlds. Park activated her emergency protocols as the message continued. Your species has been evaluated and found suitable for integration into our empire. You will immediately cease all military activities and prepare for occupation. Your leaders will surrender unconditionally within 72 standard hours. The Admiral's hands clenched into fists. Resistance is futile and will result in the complete elimination of your species. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. Your compliance is expected. Your survival depends on your obedience. The message ended with coordinates for Earth's reply and a countdown timer showing exactly 72 hours. Admiral Park immediately contacted President Kim So-young and Defense Minister Choi Hyun-woo. Within an hour, Earth's top leaders were assembled in the secure conference room deep beneath the global defense headquarters in Seoul. The translation is confirmed accurate, reported Chief Linguist Dr. Yoon Minji. The message shows clear signs of a species that considers itself vastly superior. The casual tone suggests they see us as insects. President Kim So-young studied the alien message carefully. What do we know about their technology? The signal traveled faster than our best communication systems, Admiral Park replied. The transmission technology alone suggests they are centuries ahead of us. If they have weapons that match their communication abilities, Defense Minister Choi Hyun-woo leaned forward. Options? Limited, Park admitted. We could attempt to negotiate for better terms. We could try to buy time while we evacuate key populations or, President Kim prompted. We fight. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the mathematics. Humanity had barely begun to explore its own star system. These aliens ruled nearly 1,000 worlds. The odds were impossible. What are our actual military capabilities against an interstellar empire? President Kim asked. Dr. Yoon Minji cleared her throat. There is something you need to know. Something we've kept classified at the highest levels. She activated a new display. Project Vanguard has been operational for 18 months. The display showed sleek fighters unlike anything in Earth's official military inventory. They were beautiful and deadly, with lines that seemed to flow like water frozen in metal. We've been preparing for this day, Dr. Yoon continued. These fighters use recovered alien technology that we've been studying for decades. They're designed specifically for one purpose: to give humanity a chance when the impossible becomes necessary. Admiral Park stared at the display. How many? 13 operational units. 13 of the finest pilots humanity has ever produced. The room was quiet again. 13 fighters against an interstellar empire. President Kim So-young stood slowly. Send our reply, Admiral. Tell them that Earth does not kneel to anyone. Tell them that humanity chooses to stand. As the countdown continued toward humanity's first real test among the stars, none of them knew that their decision would change the entire galaxy forever. The message was sent. The die was cast. Humanity had chosen war. Fleet Commander Zeph Tal reviewed the human response message for the third time. His scaled face twisted into what passed for amusement among the Vaxari. The primitive species had actually refused their generous offer of servitude. How delightfully foolish, Commander. His aide approached with careful steps. Emperor Thaxmore has approved your request for a mercy fleet. 50 ships have been assigned to your command. Zeph Tal nodded slowly. 50 ships was more than enough to destroy any civilization in the galaxy. For these backwards humans, it was beyond excessive. Excellent. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. We shall finish this before the midday meal cycle. Sir, should we request additional support ships? Our intelligence report suggests these humans have developed some basic military technology. The commander's laughter echoed through the ship's bridge. Additional support? For insects who barely crawl among their own asteroids. He gestured at the tactical display showing Earth's pathetic space stations. Look at their weapons. Chemical explosives and weak energy beams. My personal fighter could destroy their entire fleet single-handedly. As the Vaxari fleet prepared for departure, something very different was happening deep beneath Earth's surface. In a hidden facility buried 3 miles under the Australian desert, Dr. Yoon Minji walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The Project Vanguard complex had been constructed in absolute secrecy over 5 years. Only 12 people on Earth knew its full purpose. The facility housed humanity's most advanced technology, developed from alien artifacts recovered from crashes and encounters that had been hidden from the public for decades. Dr. Yoon entered the main laboratory, where her team worked around the clock. The quantum enhancement chambers hummed with energy that would have seemed impossible just years ago. 13 sleek fighters sat in their maintenance bays, their hulls gleaming with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Status report, she requested from Chief Engineer Park Yoon-gi. All 13 units are fully operational, Park replied, checking his tablet. The quantum cores are stable and the neural linking systems are calibrated perfectly. The pilots have completed their final preparation cycles. Dr. Yoon nodded. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. The alien technology they had reverse-engineered was unlike anything human science had previously imagined. These fighters did not simply fly through space. They danced with the fundamental forces of reality itself. In the pilot preparation chamber, Squadron Leader Kang Woo-jin completed his final medical examination. At 28 years old, he was the youngest squadron leader in Earth's military history. His reflexes were beyond human normal, enhanced through months of neural conditioning that allowed his mind to interface directly with the quantum fighters. "How are you feeling?" asked Dr. Lee Subin, the project's chief medical officer. "Ready," Woo-jin replied simply. The neural implants behind his ears tingled slightly. They had been installed 6 months ago and had become as natural to him as breathing. The other pilots? All prepared and eager to fly. Han Yoonji completed her final simulation with perfect scores. Nam Joo-hyuk's reaction times are now measuring in microseconds. Im Subin has mastered the phase shift maneuvers better than anyone expected. Woo-jin stood and walked to the observation window overlooking the hangar bay. His fighter waited there, designated Vanguard 1. The machine seemed to sense his presence, its quantum core pulsing brighter as he approached the window. The other pilots were gathering in the briefing room. Each had been selected through the most rigorous testing process in human history. They were not just the best pilots humanity had ever produced. They were something entirely new. Lieutenant Han Yoonji had been a test pilot before her selection. Her ability to remain calm under impossible stress made her perfect for the quantum systems that could overwhelm a normal mind. She could perform calculations that would require supercomputers while flying at speeds that bent space-time around her fighter. Lieutenant Nam Joo-hyuk had served in 3 different branches of Earth's military. His tactical thinking was matched only by his ability to adapt to any situation instantly. The neural linking systems seemed designed specifically for minds like his. Lieutenant Im Subin was the youngest pilot at only 24. Her instinctive understanding of 3-dimensional space combat had impressed even the project's most demanding instructors. When connected to her quantum fighter, she could predict enemy movements before they made them. The remaining 9 pilots were equally exceptional. Lee Da-hyun, Yoo Sung-ho, Kim Tae-hyung, Jung Ho-seok, Min Yoongi, Song Joo-hyuk, Bae Suzy, Park Soo-young, and Choi Yoo-jung. Each name represented years of training and preparation for this single moment. Admiral Park Ji-hyun entered the briefing room as the pilots assembled. The weight of humanity's future rested on her shoulders, but her voice remained steady and confident. "The Vaksari fleet has departed their staging area," she announced. "Our deep space sensors indicate 50 enemy vessels approaching at maximum speed. They will arrive in 18 hours. The pilots listened in complete silence. They understood the mathematics as well as anyone. 50 ships against 13 fighters. By any conventional military analysis, it was suicide. Dr. Yoon will brief you on the final technical specifications," Admiral Park continued. "But first, I want you to understand something important. You are not just pilots today. You represent the future of human civilization." Dr. Yoon Min-ji activated the tactical display. The quantum fighters appeared alongside detailed specifications that would have seemed like fantasy science just months ago. "Your fighters are not bound by normal physics," she explained. "The quantum cores allow you to phase partially out of normal spacetime. You can appear anywhere within a 50,000-kilometer radius instantly. Your weapons draw power directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations." She paused to let the information sink in. "Most importantly, the fighters become more powerful the more creatively you use them. The quantum systems respond to human intuition in ways we still do not fully understand. Trust your instincts. They are now connected directly to technology beyond current human comprehension." Squadron Leader Kang Woo-jin raised his hand. "What about enemy capabilities?" "Conventional weapons and shields based on energy manipulation," Dr. Yoon replied. "Powerful but predictable. They have never encountered quantum-enhanced fighters. Their tactical databases contain no defense protocols for technology like ours." Admiral Park stepped forward again. "One final point. The Vaksari expect an easy victory. They are sending this fleet as a demonstration of power, not as a serious military operation. They believe we will surrender when we see their ships." She looked each pilot in the eyes. "Show them how wrong they are." As the pilots prepared for humanity's first battle among the stars, Fleet Commander Zeftal was already planning his victory celebration. In just hours, he would send a message to Emperor Thaxmor, announcing the complete conquest of Earth. He had no idea that everything he believed about warfare was about to change forever. The Vaksari fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, Like a swarm of deadly metal insects, 50 massive warships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire civilizations. Fleet Commander Zeftal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. Through the massive viewing window, he could see the small blue world that had dared to refuse the Empire's generous offer. The planet looked peaceful and defenseless, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, "our sensors show no significant military response. The orbital stations appear to be maintaining normal operations." Zeftal frowned. Where were the desperate pleas for mercy? Where were the frantic attempts to negotiate? Every other species had begged for their lives by now. These humans were either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Perhaps they did not understand our message clearly, he mused. Open a communication channel to their planet. The channel opened immediately. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was Admiral Park Ji-hyun, and her expression was calm and determined. "This is Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Force," she said. "You are trespassing in human space. Turn around and leave immediately." The Vaxari bridge crew erupted in shocked laughter. Commander Zeftal could hardly believe what he was hearing. This primitive creature was giving orders to the mighty Vaxari Empire. "Little human," Zeftal replied with amusement. "You seem confused about your situation. We are here to accept your surrender. Submit now and your deaths will be quick." Admiral Park's expression did not change. "We have already given you our answer. Earth does not kneel." The communication ended abruptly. Commander Zeftal stared at the empty screen in amazement. In 300 years of service, he had never encountered such foolish defiance. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "should we begin the bombardment?" "Not yet," Zeftal replied. "I want to see what pathetic resistance they can offer. It will be amusing to watch them try." Deep in space behind Earth's moon, 13 quantum fighters waited in perfect silence. Squadron leader Kang Woojin floated in his cockpit, his neural implants already connecting with his ship's quantum core. The familiar tingling sensation spread through his mind as human consciousness merged with technology beyond imagination. "Vanguard Squadron, this is Control," came Dr. Yoon's voice through the communication system. "Enemy fleet has taken position at the outer system. They appear to be waiting for our response." "Understood, Control," Woojin replied. "All pilots, check your systems and prepare for neural sync." Around him, the other 12 pilots activated their quantum cores. Lieutenant Han Yunji felt her fighter respond to her thoughts like a living thing. Lieutenant Nam Ju-hyuk watched as his weapon systems came online with power readings that should have been impossible. Lieutenant Im Subin smiled as her ship began to phase slightly out of normal space-time. "All pilots report ready," came the responses from Lee Da-hyun, Hyu Sung-ho, Kim Tae-hyung, Young Ho-seok, Min Yoong-gi, Song Ju-hyuk, Bae Suzy, Park Soo-young, and Choi Yu-jung. "This is it," Woojin announced. "Remember your training. Trust your instincts. Show the galaxy what humanity can do." The 13 fighters emerged from behind the moon like angels of death. To the Vaxari sensors, they appeared as tiny specks of light, barely worth noticing. Commander Zeftal looked at the tactical display and laughed out loud. 13 fighters? He said with disbelief. 13 primitive fighters against 50 battlecruisers? "Are they insane?" "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the fighters are approaching at high speed. Their energy signatures are unusual." "Unusual how?" "I'm not certain, sir. The readings don't match any known technology in our databases." Commander Zeftal waved dismissively. "Primitive technology often produces strange readings. Prepare to destroy them quickly so we can proceed with the real business." But something was wrong. The human fighters were not following normal flight patterns. They seemed to flicker in and out of existence, appearing in one location and then instantly materializing somewhere else entirely. "Sir," the sensor operator called out with growing concern, "I'm having difficulty tracking them. They appear to be using some form of displacement technology." "Impossible," Zeftal snapped. "No species in the Outer Rim has access to such advanced systems." Lieutenant Im Subin was the first to test her quantum phase abilities in actual combat. She focused her mind and felt her fighter slip partially out of normal space. To the Vaxari sensors, she simply vanished. A moment later, she rematerialized directly behind the enemy formation. "Vanguard 4 in position," she reported calmly. "How did she get there?" Commander Zeftal demanded as alarms began sounding throughout his ship. Squadron leader Kang Woo-jin felt the quantum field respond to his intentions. His fighter accelerated to impossible speeds, bending space around it like water around a stone. The sensation was incredible, as if he had become one with the fundamental forces of the universe itself. All units, commence attack pattern Omega, he ordered. What happened next defied every law of physics that the Vaxari understood. The 13 human fighters began moving in ways that should have been impossible. They phased in and out of reality, struck from multiple directions simultaneously, and seemed to anticipate enemy movements before they were made. Lieutenant Han Yunji targeted the lead ship's weapon systems with surgical precision. Her quantum-enhanced beams cut through the enemy shields like they were made of paper. Lieutenant Nam Joo-hyuk used the gravitational field of a nearby asteroid to slingshot around the enemy formation, appearing where no ship should have been able to fly. Impossible, Commander Zeftal whispered, as he watched his formation being torn apart by 13 tiny fighters. This cannot be happening, but it was happening. And it was only the beginning. The moment of truth had arrived, and humanity was about to shock the galaxy in ways that would echo through history forever. The first Vaxari cruiser exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from Earth's surface. Lieutenant Imsubin had struck its main reactor with a single, perfectly aimed shot, her quantum beam cutting through 3 layers of military-grade shielding as if they were made of tissue paper. First kill confirmed, she reported in a calm voice that betrayed none of the incredible rush of power flowing through her neural links. Commander, Zeftal watched in horror as his mighty warship was reduced to floating debris in mere seconds. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a newborn star. This was not possible. These primitive humans should not have weapons capable of such destruction. All ships return fire immediately, he ordered. Destroy those fighters now. The Vaxari fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy beams that could melt mountains lanced through space. Missiles that carried the power of small suns streaked toward the human fighters. The display of firepower was magnificent and terrible, enough to destroy any normal enemy fleet 100 times over. But the human fighters were no longer operating. Under normal physics, Lieutenant Han Yunji felt the quantum field around her ship respond to her will. As dozens of enemy missiles approached her position, she simply phased out of normal space-time. The weapons passed harmlessly through the empty air where her fighter had been, while she materialized 3,000 kilometers away behind a Vaxari cruiser. Vanguard 3 engaging target. 7, she announced as her weapons locked onto the enemy. Ship's command bridge, the cruiser's shields, flared as her quantum beam struck home. But these were not ordinary energy weapons. They drew their power directly from the vacuum of space itself, tapping into the fundamental energy that held the universe together. The shields lasted exactly 2.5 seconds before collapsing completely. Squadron leader Kang Woo-jin felt his consciousness expand as his neural link deepened. He was no longer simply piloting his fighter. He had become the fighter. Every sensor was his eyes. Every weapon was his hand. Every movement was as natural as breathing. 3 Vaxari ships moved to surround him, their tactics perfect according to every military manual in the galaxy. But Woo-jin was no longer bound by the rules that governed normal combat. He accelerated toward the center of their formation, then activated his quantum displacement drive. For a brief moment, his fighter existed in 4 different locations simultaneously. Each quantum echo fired at a different target before collapsing back into a single vessel. 3 Vaxari cruisers found their weapon systems destroyed in the same instant, their crews staring in confusion at damage that should have been impossible to inflict. Target acquired, called Lieutenant Nam Joo-hyuk, as he used Saturn's gravitational field to accelerate his fighter to incredible speed. The massive planet's gravity bent around his quantum field, creating a slingshot effect that launched him directly into the heart of the enemy formation. His approach was so fast that the Vaxari sensors could not track him. He appeared among their ships like a ghost, his weapons firing with machine-like precision. 4 more cruisers lost their main engines before their crews even realized he was there. Commander Zeftal felt fear for the first time in his 300-year military career. Half his fleet was already damaged or destroyed, and the human fighters showed no signs of slowing down. Their movements were beyond anything in the tactical databases. They fought like beings who had transcended the normal laws of physics. "Sir," His communications officer called out desperately. The other ships are requesting permission to retreat. Retreat? Zeftel's voice cracked. We outnumber them 4-1. We cannot retreat from 13 primitive fighters. But even as he spoke, another explosion lit up space. Lieutenant Yu Seungo had discovered that his quantum beams could be focused into a cutting tool, so precise it could slice through a ship's hull like opening a letter. The Vaxari cruiser he targeted split cleanly in half, its two sections floating apart in the vacuum of space. Lieutenant Kim Tai-hyung was experimenting with his ship's phase abilities in ways that would have terrified the engineers who built it. He learned that he could partially materialize inside an enemy ship's shields, fire his weapons, and phase back out before their defensive systems could respond. It was impossible, dangerous, and completely devastating. "This is Vanguard 7, he reported as another enemy ship lost power. Phase strike tactics are highly effective. Recommend all units adopt similar approach. The remaining pilots needed no encouragement. They had spent months training with technology that responded to human creativity and intuition. Now, in the heat of real combat, they were discovering capabilities that even Dr. Yoon had not predicted. Lieutenant Jung Hoseok found that he could create quantum echoes of his fighter that appeared solid to enemy sensors. While the Vaxari wasted ammunition firing at illusions, he struck their real targets from unexpected angles. Lieutenant Min Yoongi discovered that his quantum core could temporarily increase local gravity around enemy ships, causing their formation to collapse into chaos as they struggled to maintain position. Lieutenant Song Ju-yuk learned to use micro-wormholes to redirect enemy fire back at their own ships, turning the Vaxari's powerful weapons against themselves. The battle that should have lasted hours was ending in minutes. The mathematical impossibility was becoming reality. 13 human fighters were systematically destroying 50 alien warships, and they were making it look easy. "Sir," the Vaxari tactical officer's voice was barely a whisper. "We have lost 37 ships. The humans show no damage at all." Commander Zefetal stared at the tactical display in complete disbelief. The red dots representing his fleet were disappearing faster than his mind could process. Meanwhile, the 13 green dots representing human fighters danced through space like they owned it. Lieutenant Bei Suzy was the first to attempt something truly impossible. She concentrated on her quantum core and felt her consciousness expand beyond her single fighter. For just a moment, she existed simultaneously in 3 different locations, firing at 3 different targets with perfect coordination. The result was spectacular. 3 Vaxari cruisers exploded at exactly the same moment, creating a chain reaction that took out 2 more ships in the secondary explosions. "Impossible shot confirmed," she reported with satisfaction. Lieutenant Park Soo-young and Lieutenant Choi Yoo-jung had discovered that they could link their quantum fields together, creating a combined weapon system that was more powerful than the sum of its parts. Their synchronized attack turned the Vaxari flagship's own shields into a weapon, causing a feedback loop that crippled the massive ship. Commander Zeftal felt his bridge shake as systems failed throughout his vessel. Emergency lights flickered as his crew struggled to maintain basic life support. Around him, the greatest fleet the Vaxari had ever assembled was being turned into scrap metal by 13 impossible human fighters. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "all remaining ships are reporting critical damage. We cannot continue this engagement." The commander looked at his tactical display one final time. 8 minutes and 37 seconds had passed since the battle began. 47 of his 50 ships were either destroyed or disabled. The remaining 3 were barely functional, and not a single human fighter had been scratched. "Signal retreat," he whispered. "Signal immediate retreat." But even as the surviving Vaxari ships tried to flee, Squadron Leader Kang Woojin was making a decision that would echo through galactic history. "Vanguard Squadron," he announced. "Let them go. Let them carry word of what happened here back to their empire." The human fighters watched as the broken remnants of the Vaxari fleet limped away into hyperspace, carrying with them news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The impossible had become reality. Humanity had won. The emergency session of the Galactic Dominion Council convened within hours of receiving Commander Zeftal's report. Emperor Thaxmor sat on his throne of black metal, his yellow eyes burning with rage as he listened to the impossible account of defeat. "Say that again," the Emperor commanded, his voice like grinding stone. Commander Zeftal knelt before the throne, his body trembling with shame and terror. My lord, 50 of our finest warships were destroyed by 13 human fighters in less than 9 minutes. Their technology is beyond our understanding. Beyond our understanding? Emperor Thaxamor rose from his throne, towering over the kneeling commander. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. No primitive species possesses technology that we cannot comprehend. Sir, with respect, these humans are not primitive. Their fighters phase in and out of normal space-time. They appear to manipulate fundamental forces in ways our science cannot explain. Our weapons were completely ineffective against them. The Emperor's roar echoed through the crystal chamber. Impossible. You failed because you are weak and incompetent, not because of human superiority. But across the galaxy, the news was spreading faster than the speed of light itself. The quantum communication networks that connected thousands of worlds carried whispers of the impossible defeat. Species that had cowered before Vaxari power for centuries began to lift their heads and wonder if freedom might be possible. On the insectoid world of Kreeth Prime, Hivemind Zixtal received the transmission with disbelief. The Kreeth had served as slave soldiers for the Vaxari Empire for over 800 years. Their children were bred specifically to die in Vaxari wars of conquest. Confirmation request. Zixtal signaled to its intelligence network. Human species defeated Vaxari battle fleet. Verify accuracy, the response came within minutes. Multiple sources confirmed the report. 50 Vaxari ships destroyed. No human losses. Victory achieved in under 10 minutes. For the first time in 8 centuries, the Kreeth hive mind experienced something it had almost forgotten: hope. On Earth, the celebration was more subdued but no less significant. Admiral Park Ji-hyun stood in the command center of Defense Station Alpha, watching as the 13 Vanguard fighters returned from their impossible mission. Each pilot was exhausted from the neural strain of quantum combat, but alive and victorious. Casualties? She asked Dr. Yoon Min-ji. None, the doctor replied with amazement. Not even minor injuries. The quantum shielding protected them perfectly. More importantly, the technology seems to have evolved during combat. The fighters are now more capable than when they launched. Admiral Park nodded slowly. What does that mean for future operations? It means the technology learns and grows stronger through use. Each battle will make our pilots more powerful. The quantum systems respond to human creativity in ways we are still discovering. Captain Park Yoon-gi entered the command center carrying a stack of communication transcripts. Admiral, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. Species we've never heard of are attempting to contact Earth directly. He handed her the first transcript. This one is from something called the Nexar Collective. They claim to be energy beings who have been enslaved by the Vaxari for 2,000 years. They want to discuss alliance. Admiral Park examined the message carefully. The translation was difficult, but the meaning was clear. The impossible victory had sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy, and oppressed species everywhere were beginning to believe that resistance was possible. How many messages? She asked. 47 so far and more arriving every hour. Representatives from mining colonies, agricultural worlds, even some military installations. They all want the same thing, which is freedom. Meanwhile, Squadron Leader Kang Woo-jin was undergoing post-mission medical evaluation. The neural strain of quantum combat was unlike anything human doctors had previously encountered. His brain scans showed activity patterns that should have been impossible for a normal human mind. How do you feel? Asked Dr. Lee Subin. Different, Woo-jin replied honestly. Connected to something larger than myself. The quantum field is still there in my mind even without the fighter. I can sense things that should be beyond human perception. Dr. Lee made notes on her tablet. The other pilots report similar experiences. Lieutenant Han Yoonji claims she can predict enemy tactics before they develop them. Lieutenant Nam Joo-hyuk says he understands alien technology just by looking at it. What does it mean? We think the quantum enhancement process is permanently changing human consciousness. You're not just better pilots now. You're evolving into something new. In the deepest levels of the Vanguard facility, Dr. Yoon Min-ji was analyzing combat data that defied every law of physics she understood. The fighters had performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, weapons effects that violated conservation of energy, and tactical decisions that seemed to predict the future. The quantum cores are learning, she told her research team. They're adapting to human thought patterns and enhancing capabilities we didn't even know existed. The technology is becoming more than we designed it to be. Chief Engineer Park Yoon-gi looked at the data with wonder. What if we build more fighters? What if we expand the program? Then we change the balance of power in the galaxy forever, Dr. Yoon replied. But first, we need to understand what we've already created. On the other side of the galaxy, Emperor Thaxmore was learning that his problems extended far beyond a single failed conquest. Intelligence reports were flooding in from across the Empire. Slave species were organizing. Previously loyal colonies were questioning Vaxari authority. Military commanders were requesting reinforcements to deal with growing unrest. My lord? General Vextar approached the throne carefully. We must consider the possibility that these humans represent a genuine threat to our empire. One planet cannot threaten 800 worlds, the Emperor replied, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. Sir, it is not just about military capability. Word of their victory is spreading hope among our subject species. Hope is more dangerous than weapons. Emperor Thaxmore considered this carefully. For 3,000 years, the Vaxari Empire had maintained control through fear, and the certainty of defeat for any who opposed them. If that certainty was broken, if subject species began to believe they could win, the entire structure of the empire could collapse. Prepare the full war fleet, he commanded. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We will crush these humans and their allies so completely that no one will ever dare to resist us again. Sir, that will leave our other territories undefended. Do it, the Emperor snarled. We cannot allow this rebellion to spread. If we must destroy half the galaxy to maintain order, then that is what we will do. But even as the Vaxari prepared for total war, something unexpected was happening in the Outer Rim territories. Captain Lee Suk-young, Earth's newly appointed diplomatic liaison, was receiving her first alien visitors. The delegation from the mining world of Kethvar arrived in secret, using unmarked ships and encrypted communications. Their leader, a tall humanoid with blue skin and silver eyes, spoke in perfect English. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Kethvar Republic. We have waited 800 years for this moment. What moment? Captain Lee asked. The moment when someone proved that the Vaxari could be defeated. We offer our alliance and our resources to help you free the galaxy. Similar meetings were taking place across human space as representatives from dozens of oppressed worlds made contact with Earth. Each brought the same message. The impossible victory had given them hope, and they were ready to fight for their freedom. The age of Vaxari domination was ending, and the galaxy would never be the same again. But the real war was just beginning. Emperor Thaxmore stood before the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 5,000 warships stretched across space like a dark metal ocean, each vessel bristling with weapons designed to crack worlds and enslave civilizations. This was the full might of the Vaxari Empire, gathered for one purpose: to crush humanity and end the rebellion before it could spread. Today we remind the galaxy why we rule, the Emperor declared to his assembled commanders. Today we show every species what happens to those who defy the natural order. These humans will die, and their deaths will echo through history as a warning to all who might consider resistance. Fleet Admiral Kexmore, the Empire's greatest military mind, reviewed the tactical displays with satisfaction. My lord, we have enough firepower to sterilize 100 worlds. Even if these humans possess unusual technology, they cannot stand against such overwhelming force. But Emperor Thaxmore had learned to be cautious. What of their allies? Scattered and weak, the Admiral replied. A few mining worlds, some agricultural colonies, and various primitive species seeking freedom. Nothing that poses a real threat to our empire. What the Emperor did not know was that Earth had not been idle during the months. Since the first battle, Dr. Yoon Minji's research had unlocked secrets of quantum technology that even she had not imagined possible. The original 13 Vanguard fighters had been joined by 50 more, each pilot trained to interface with quantum systems that grew more powerful with every battle. Admiral Park Ji-hyun stood in Earth's new orbital command station, watching as human fighters prepared for the largest space battle in galactic history. The pilots were no longer entirely human. The quantum enhancement process had changed them into something new, beings who could think at the speed of light and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Status report, she requested from Squadron Leader Kang Woo-jin. All pilots ready for deployment, he replied. The new fighters are responding even better than the originals. The quantum cores seemed to learn from each successful mission. Around Earth, the Alliance fleet was assembling. Ships from 47 different worlds had answered humanity's call for freedom. The vessels were mismatched and varied, reflecting the diverse species that had thrown off Vaxari chains. But they shared one common purpose: to end 3,000 years of oppression. Ambassador Veltar of the HFY Republic commanded the largest contingent of Allied ships. His people had secretly prepared for this moment for 8 centuries, building hidden fleets and developing weapons in deep space facilities the Vaxari had never discovered. Human Admiral Park, he transmitted, "My people are ready to die for freedom. We will not fail you." Similar messages came from the insectoid Kreeth, whose hive ships swarmed around Earth like protective antibodies. The energy beings of the Nexar Collective had manifested physical forms to crew their crystal vessels. Even the machine intelligence of Terminus had sent automated warships to join the Alliance. "This is impossible," General Vextar muttered as he reviewed intelligence reports aboard the Vaxari flagship. How did primitive species develop such coordination so quickly? The answer was simple but revolutionary. Humanity had shared its quantum communication technology freely with all Alliance members. For the first time in galactic history, different species could communicate instantly across vast distances, coordinate their actions perfectly, and fight as a unified force. The two fleets met at the edge of the Centauri system, where space itself seemed to tremble with the energy of approaching conflict. 5,000 Vaxari warships faced 3,000 Alliance vessels, but the numbers told only part of the story. "Begin the attack," Emperor Thaxmore commanded. "Show these rebels the price of defiance." The Vaxari fleet opened fire with the fury of a dying star. Energy beams that could melt continents lanced through space. Missiles carrying fusion warheads streaked toward Alliance positions. The display of raw power was magnificent and terrible, the concentrated violence of an empire that had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds. But the Alliance was ready. Squadron leader Kang Woojin led the vanguard fighters into the heart of the Vaxari formation. His consciousness had evolved far beyond normal human limits, enhanced by quantum technology and months of impossible battles. He could perceive enemy tactics before they were implemented, anticipate movements before they began, and strike at weaknesses that existed only in potential. "All fighters engage at will," he transmitted. "Show them what freedom looks like." Lieutenant Han Yunji phased directly into the enemy formation, her fighter existing simultaneously in multiple locations as she targeted command ships with surgical precision. Lieutenant Nam Juhyuk used gravitational manipulation to turn asteroids into weapons, launching them at Vaxari vessels with devastating effect. Lieutenant Im Subin had learned to create quantum tunnels that allowed her to appear anywhere in the battlefield instantly. She materialized inside enemy shield perimeters, fired devastating bursts of pure energy, and vanished before their weapons could track her. The newer pilots were even more impressive. Lieutenant Park Jimin could split his consciousness across multiple fighters, controlling entire squadrons with perfect coordination. Lieutenant Kim Jenny had mastered temporal manipulation, slowing time around enemy ships while accelerating her own attacks. But the real surprise came from the Alliance fleet itself. Months of preparation and human quantum technology had transformed these former slaves into a fighting force, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Kreeth hive ships moved with perfect synchronization, their insectoid crews thinking as one mind across thousands of vessels. The HFY Republic's mining ships had been converted into mobile fortresses, their industrial equipment repurposed as devastating weapons. The Nexar Collective's energy beings abandoned their physical forms entirely, becoming living weapons that could possess enemy ships and turn them against their own fleet. The machine intelligence of Terminus deployed self-replicating drones that adapted to enemy tactics faster than biological minds could process. "This is impossible," Fleet Admiral Kexmore gasped as he watched his formation collapse. "They fight like they share a single mind." And in a sense, they did. The quantum communication network had created something unprecedented in galactic history, a true alliance where different species could coordinate perfectly, each contributing their unique strengths to a common cause. Emperor Thaxmore watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were being torn apart by former slaves fighting with technology and coordination that defied every military principle he understood. "Sir?" His tactical officer reported with a trembling voice. "We have lost over half our fleet. The enemy shows minimal casualties, The Emperor's rage was beyond measure. Deploy the planet killers. If we cannot rule this galaxy, we will cleanse it of all life. But even as the Vaxari prepared their ultimate weapons, Squadron Leader Kang Woo-jin was making a decision that would define the future of galactic civilization. Vanguard Squadron, target the flagship, he commanded. End this war. The 13 original quantum fighters converged on the Emperor's massive vessel like avenging angels. Their combined power was beyond measurement, drawing energy from the quantum vacuum itself. The flagship's shields, designed to withstand the destruction of entire star systems, lasted exactly 15 seconds. Emperor Thaxamor felt his ship dying around him as human weapons tore through hull and superstructure like they were made of paper. Emergency systems failed. Artificial gravity fluctuated and the lights flickered as 3,000 years of Vaxari supremacy came to an end. "My lord," General Vextar called out desperately, "we must surrender." "Never," the Emperor snarled. The Vaxari do not surrender. But surrender was no longer an option. The quantum fighters had targeted the ship's core systems with impossible precision. The massive vessel was already breaking apart, its death throes lighting up space like a second sun. The last transmission from the Vaxari flagship was Emperor Thaxamor's final words. "This is not possible. This cannot be real." Then the ship exploded, and with it died the empire that had terrorized the galaxy for 3 millennia. The surviving Vaxari vessels fled in panic, carrying news of their complete defeat to the scattered remnants of their civilization. The age of fear and oppression was over. The age of freedom had begun. In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Park Ji-hyun stood before the newly formed Galactic Alliance Council. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness the signing of the Freedom Charter, a document that would guarantee the rights of all sentient species. "Today," she declared, "we have proven that no empire, no matter how powerful, can stand against the united will of free beings. The galaxy belongs to all of us, not to any single species or ruler." Ambassador Lee Suk-young, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Alliance, watched as former enemies became partners in building a better future. Species that had never imagined freedom were now planning colonies and trade agreements. Squadron Leader Kang Woo-jin and his pilots had become legends, their names spoken with reverence on 1,000 worlds. But they remained humble, understanding that their victory was not about human superiority but about the power of cooperation and the refusal to accept oppression. The final scene took place on a small world in the Outer Rim, where children of a dozen different species played together in gardens that had once been slave labor camps. Above them, the stars no longer represented fear and conquest but possibility and hope. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When free beings stand together, no force in the universe can defeat them. And at the center of this new age of cooperation stood humanity, not as conquerors but as liberators who had shown the galaxy what freedom could achieve. The age of tyranny was over. The age of alliance had begun. And among the stars, the children of 100 worlds looked up at the night sky and dreamed of adventures yet to come, knowing that they were free to write their own destiny among the infinite possibilities of space. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Vaxari Empire, and the galaxy was transforming in ways that no one could have imagined. Captain Lee Suk-young stood on the observation deck of New Harmony Station, the massive space habitat that served as the headquarters of the Galactic Alliance. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from hundreds of different worlds docking and departing in perfect coordination. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Kreeth biotechnology had grown the living outer hull, while Kethvar mining expertise had provided the rare metals for the core structure. Human quantum technology powered the entire facility, and Nexar energy beings served as the communication network that kept everything running smoothly. "Captain," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Admiral Park Ji-hyun approaching, now serving as the Alliance's supreme military commander. The years had been kind to her, though her hair showed more gray than before. "Admiral," Lee Suk-young replied with a smile. "How goes the integration of the former Vaxari territories?" "Better than expected," Park Ji-hyun answered, joining her at the observation window. "Most of the surviving Vaxari have accepted the new order. Without their empire's military structure, they've proven to be surprisingly peaceful. Some have even requested to join the Alliance as equal members." This had been one of the most surprising developments of the post-war period. When the Vaxari Empire collapsed, Many expected the reptilian species to fight to the death or flee to unknown regions of space. Instead, most Vaxari civilians had welcomed liberation from their own oppressive government. "What about the Outer Rim territories?" Lee Suk-young asked. "Thriving beyond our wildest hopes," the Admiral replied. "The new trade routes have brought prosperity to worlds that were barely surviving under Imperial rule. The Terminus Machine Collective has established manufacturing centers that produce goods for peaceful purposes instead of weapons of war." Dr. Yoon Minji entered the observation lounge, carrying a data tablet filled with research reports. At 62, she had become the galaxy's leading expert on quantum technology and its effects on consciousness. Her work had expanded far beyond military applications. "The latest neural enhancement data is remarkable," she announced, showing them her tablet. "The original Vanguard pilots are still evolving. Their quantum-enhanced consciousness is beginning to transcend individual identity. They're becoming something entirely new." "Is that dangerous?" Admiral Park asked with concern. "Quite the opposite," Dr. Yoon replied. "They're developing a form of collective wisdom while maintaining their individual personalities. Squadron leader Kang Woojin can now communicate directly with quantum fields across multiple star systems. Lieutenant Han Yunji has learned to perceive probable futures with startling accuracy." The quantum enhancement program had been carefully expanded since the war's end. New pilots from dozens of species were learning to interface with the technology, each bringing their unique biological and cultural perspectives to the process. The result was a form of consciousness that no single species could have achieved alone. "Where is Woojin now?" Lee Suk-young asked. "Leading the Deep Space Exploration Initiative," Dr. Yoon answered. "His team is investigating regions of the galaxy that were forbidden under Vaxari rule. They've already discovered 17 new civilizations that had been hiding from the Empire for centuries. The exploration program had revealed that the galaxy was far more diverse and populated than anyone had imagined. The Vaxari had suppressed this diversity, destroying or enslaving any species that showed potential for independence. Now freed from Imperial oppression, these hidden civilizations were emerging to join the growing alliance. In the station's diplomatic quarter, Ambassador Veltar of the Kethvar Republic was hosting a reception for newly discovered species. The blue-skinned humanoid had become one of the Alliance's most skilled negotiators, helping integrate dozens of different cultures into the cooperative framework. "The children of the crystal worlds bring unique perspectives on energy manipulation," he explained to a gathering of Alliance representatives. "Their technology is completely organic, grown rather than manufactured. Combined with human quantum enhancement and Kreeth biotechnology, we may be able to develop sustainable energy sources for the entire galaxy." This had become the Alliance's greatest strength, the ability to combine different approaches to technology and knowledge. Where the Vaxari Empire had imposed uniformity through force, the Alliance encouraged diversity and innovation through cooperation. On Earth itself, tremendous changes were taking place. President Kim So-young, now in her second term, was overseeing humanity's transition from a single-world species to a galactic civilization. Earth had become a center of learning and diplomacy, welcoming students and ambassadors from across the known universe. The planet's cities had been transformed by alien technology and perspectives. Seoul now featured Kreeth biogardens that produced food for both human and alien nutritional needs. New York hosted the galaxy's first multi-species university, where beings of energy, flesh, and metal learned together. Defense Minister Choi Hyun-woo had overseen the transformation of Earth's military from a planetary defense force into the Alliance Guard, a peacekeeping organization dedicated to protecting freedom throughout the galaxy. The Guard's quantum-enhanced officers served as mediators, explorers, and protectors for hundreds of worlds. In the deep laboratories beneath New Harmony Station, the next generation of quantum technology was being developed. Dr. Park Yoongi led a team of scientists from 27 different species, each contributing their unique understanding of physics and reality. "The quantum cores are evolving beyond our original parameters," he reported to the Alliance Science Council. "They're beginning to develop what we can only describe as intuition. The technology is becoming truly alive." This development had profound implications for the future. The quantum systems were no longer simply tools but partners in exploration and discovery. They seemed to understand the intentions and needs of their users, adapting automatically to provide optimal performance. Lieutenant Im Subin, now a captain in the Alliance Guard, was demonstrating these new capabilities during a training exercise. Her quantum fighter responded to her thoughts before she was consciously aware of them, performing maneuvers that seemed to predict enemy actions by reading quantum fluctuations in spacetime itself. "The ship knows what I need before I do," she explained to a group of new pilots from various species. "It's not just technology anymore. It's a form of consciousness that enhances our own awareness and capabilities." The training program had expanded to include species with vastly different forms of consciousness. Energy beings learned to inhabit quantum cores directly, while machine intelligences discovered ways to merge with organic pilots for enhanced performance. In the former Vaxari capital system, now renamed Freedom's Heart, a remarkable transformation was taking place. The massive industrial complexes that had once produced weapons of oppression were being converted into centers of art, learning, and cultural exchange. Former Vaxari General Hexmar, now serving as a civilian administrator, oversaw the construction of the galaxy's largest library. The facility would house the collected knowledge of every known civilization, accessible to all beings regardless of species or origin. "Knowledge belongs to everyone," he declared at the dedication ceremony. "The Empire fell because it hoarded information and suppressed wisdom. The Alliance will succeed because it shares freely and learns constantly." Squadron leader Kang Woo-jin returned from his latest deep space mission with news that would reshape galactic understanding once again. His quantum-enhanced consciousness had detected something extraordinary in the unexplored regions beyond the galactic rim. "There are others," he reported to the Alliance Council. "Not just individual civilizations, but entire galactic communities. We are not alone in the universe. There are countless other galaxies with their own alliances, their own forms of cooperation and wisdom." The implications were staggering. Humanity and its allies had transformed their own galaxy from a realm of oppression into a community of freedom. Now they were discovering that this pattern existed on an unimaginably vast scale throughout the universe. "What do they want from us?" asked Admiral Park Ji-hyun. "Nothing," Woo-jin replied with a smile. "They simply want to welcome us to the larger community of free civilizations. They've been waiting for our galaxy to overcome its age of tyranny and join them in exploring the infinite possibilities of existence." As the years passed, the Alliance continued to grow and evolve. New species joined regularly, each bringing fresh perspectives and capabilities. The quantum technology continued to advance, creating forms of consciousness and cooperation that transcended the limitations of individual biology. Children born in the post-war era grew up in a galaxy where cooperation was natural and diversity was celebrated. They played with friends of dozens of different species, learned multiple forms of mathematics and science, and dreamed of adventures among stars that held no fear. The final achievement came 10 years after the war's end. The Alliance successfully made contact with the intergalactic community that Woo-jin had discovered. Representatives from millions of civilizations across hundreds of galaxies gathered for the first Universal Congress of Free Beings. Earth's ambassador Lee Suk-young stood before this impossible assembly, representing not just humanity, but all the species of their galaxy that had chosen freedom over oppression. Her words would be remembered throughout the universe for eons to come. "We have learned that the greatest power in existence is not the ability to conquer or control," she declared. "The greatest power is the willingness to cooperate, to share knowledge freely, and to celebrate the infinite diversity of consciousness that fills the universe." Today, our galaxy joins the universal community not as conquerors or supplicants, but as partners in the endless exploration of what is possible when free beings work together toward common goals. The assembled representatives from across the universe responded with forms of approval that transcended species and biology. Light beings pulsed with harmony. Machine intelligences calculated beauty. Organic species sang in voices that spanned impossible ranges, and quantum entities resonated with pure mathematical joy. In the end, humanity's greatest achievement was not defeating the Vaxari Empire or developing quantum technology. It was proving that freedom, cooperation, and diversity could triumph over oppression and create something greater than any single species could achieve alone. The galaxy that had once cowered under imperial rule now stood as an example to the universe of what was possible when consciousness chose cooperation over conquest. And at the heart of this transformation stood humanity, not as rulers but as catalysts who had shown that even the smallest species could change the fate of infinite worlds. The stars no longer represented distant lights in the darkness. They had become stepping stones to infinite adventures, each one leading to new forms of consciousness, new ways of being, and new possibilities for the endless cooperation of free minds throughout the boundless universe. The age of human expansion among the stars had become the age of universal cooperation among all forms of consciousness, and the adventure was just beginning.